So, Rob, you have some time to talk about the book, the process, your analysis, or as we say in Latin America, ¿cuál es la coyuntura? ¿Cuál es la coyuntura política? What is the conjuncture politically, economically, spiritually that we're living in, and how do we get from here to someplace else, which is better? Go ahead, Rob.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Edgar. I very much appreciate it, and thank you all for turning out tonight. And certainly thanks to all the panelists. We very much think, that obviously I put a lot of time and effort into this book. Okay, very much so. But we have people here today who contributed to some of the articles. There are a couple dispatches from Pandemic Research for the People that we wrote, so we put that in there, and there's a couple other ones that I wrote with dear colleagues, and so very much every book should be a matter of emerging out of a community, and I wanted to celebrate that, and also offer this as an opportunity for us to work through how to what to do next, right? So I want to start off by saying, yes, it's a pleasure to be here, but I also think that we need to stop meeting like this. I make a terrible joke in the book that this is the second of 19 volumes of COVID essays I'll be writing. I hope very much not to be the case. I don't think I could handle that. But we're still very much in a COVID pandemic. Whatever the president of the United States says, he can't just declare it over. The virus doesn't cooperate that way. Presently we have anything from 1.3 million to 2 or 3 million a week of new confirmed COVID cases around the world. This is at a time in which nations around the world are kind of rolling back their surveillance programs. We have anything from 8,000 to 15,000 deaths a week. We have had 20,000 deaths in the U.S. alone since the turn of the year. So it's absolutely madness to presume that we can just declare it out of existence. We'll discuss why that is, probably in a number of our panels, why those efforts are being made to do so. From the first book, we had a similar kind of book launch for my first COVID book, Dead Epidemiologists, and that was in 2020, and it was certainly a different year, a different historical conjuncture, as Edgar brought up, as now 2023 for Our SARS. In some ways for the books, they're in continuation. I think the introduction in Dead Epidemiologists is written in July 2020, and the first piece, or the earliest piece in the new book is dated August 2020. So there is something of continuation from Dead Epidemiologists to the new book, but also it's quite different. On the one hand, it took 10 months to write and publish the first book. This has taken over 2 years. This book's a little bit longer in that regard. On the first book, largely took a kind of a exploration of the kind of hard science around the virus, all the way through the kind of political economy of the origins of the virus and the present response to it. In the second book, that's very much the same in that way. We do have some short essays that were written directly for the public, short essays on specific scientific topics. The others, there are some essays in there that are more technical in nature, right? The 2 essays on the origins of the virus, I use those as an opportunity to get into the weeds to figure out what I actually thought about things. So those may be a little bit more difficult, but I assure you they will reward close reading. Frankly, I think I came to some conclusions that you'll find nowhere else. So I hope you'll find the time to read through those. But in addition, there's something that happened along the way here that accounts for this book being slightly different from the first one. If we remember, 2020, things were somewhat clearer in the sense of, Trump was in office, he was hideous, he was horrible. We had a new virus that we didn't know much about, and we were all largely able to batten down the hatch, except for those who had to go to work out and beyond. And, so there was a certain both confusion and clarity, but specific to the moment of a first year of a pandemic. Now we're in 2023, and things are much different historical moment. On the one hand, everyone's an expert at this point, for better and for worse. The worst part, of course, is that people pontificating on things they don't know much about, and it's not just people at the local bar; it's people in the latest New Yorker. So it's all over the place in that regard. But in addition, we must also respect the fact that people have gone through 3 years of a pandemic. They've come to some conclusions. It's a little bit different place that we are. We are also in a situation now where we have Biden in the office, and the liberals are largely split on this. Some liberals have peeled off and just marching step in step with the Biden administration on anything they present. And of course, the Biden administration has circled back through pretending, or not pretending, but during the electoral process, they presented science as the means by which that would help them not only stop the pandemic, but also defeat Trump at the poll. It succeeded in the second in that regard. But by May 2021, the administration had enough, right? So they wanted out. They had their CDC submit their recommendation that if you were vaccinated, you didn't have to mask anymore. And that was the beginning of the end in some ways. They were aiming for Independence Day, July 4th, 2021 is the time that we would get out of this. That failed miserably, and to very much the deep wound to the administration. They suffered at the polls. This is even before Afghanistan reared its head in terms of exiting. But we have they learned their lesson, unfortunately, because they by February of 2022, they came to the conclusion that they were going to basically push this through. And so there was, in effect, a long history, a long march to getting us to the point of stripping out every single one of the protections. So it started off with the social protections, the end of the Paycheck Protection Program, end of the eviction moratoria, and then all the way through down to our present day effort to kind of end the public health emergency. So, even though I have 2 essays in there that basically describe, there's one in November 2020, one in January 2021, that the Biden administration would unlikely be able to follow through with its promises. And it had to do with more structural constraints that I won't go into now. But it really is still at a shock in May 2021 to see them fold like that. And so I moved into writing more longer meditations into across different topics, everything from the police murders to the Line 3 oil pipeline here in Minnesota, connecting it to COVID. And these are very long essays, but there's some personal aspects of it written in, but it's an attempt to basically try to get into underlying bedrock of how we arrived here at an American moment in which we as the richest nation in the history of humanity, are unable and refuses to deal with a pandemic on our shores. So it gets into the cultural and social psychology that emerges out of the structural program that we find ourselves in. So some of these essays, I think one's like 100 pages, but I think it goes section to section, seems to bounce from topic to topic, but I propose that it will reward reading, but by the end, you'll get some understanding, I hope, of how we arrive at this moment, and frankly, also, how do we get out of it? Okay, so there is some aspect of writing in the spirit of Daniel Defoe, who in essence, his book on a Journal of the Plague is exquisite. It really captures many of the things that we face today. I'm not sure if I actually was able to properly model that, but I did try to make a bigger picture effort of that this is more than merely a matter of a virus, more than merely a matter of vaccine. It's more than merely a matter of how public policy turns data into public health interventions. It's more than a matter of palace intrigue. There's a lot more crystallized in this historical moment that goes back into the deep history of the country, that leads us to a position where Black and brown people are shot in the street on a daily basis, and no matter how many so-called reforms are put in, much in the way that here's a pandemic that is struck and killed more than 1 million Americans, and there's a decision not to do anything about it. And of course, that continues on with the train out in Ohio, and the same thing. The thinking is underlying it, that sometimes, as Rebecca described, the economy is treated as if it's realer than the people in the public health underlying it. So I think I'm going to stop there for now. I think my time's out here, and I hope that our discussions here today would fill out more of some of the things I wrote, but also many of our panelists are extraordinary in their own work, and they'll bring new insights. This is not just about rehashing a book, although we do hope you buy it as well. But in addition, to learn more, I mean, to see this as an opportunity for us to get together as a community and to think through what our present moment is, which is for many people quite confusing. All right, so I'll stop there. Thank you very much.